Buongiorno everyone, welcome back to the Magpie channel, here for lineup predictions for Newcastle United's game tomorrow night, 7:45 kickoff at Goodison Park against the struggling Everton, live on Amazon Prime if you have it. Interesting game this one's going to be. Last month, start of February, it would have been just after the transfer window closed. Tough game against Everton. Coming into that one, we were still struggling in the bottom three. Everton won on the outside. I can't even remember where they were at the time, like 15th maybe, I think they were. I think we were about 19th, 18th. They were about 15th, 14th, something like that. Yeah, we were looking at that game thinking, this is a big opportunity. Looking at the points difference, that wasn't a great lot. That was the start of us really climbing. I think that win really propelled us. That performance, Kieran Trippier's free kick, what a game, what a performance. And yeah, we were looking at that game thinking, if we win this, not only will we finish out of the bottom three, I think that was what the case was. It took us up from like 18th, 19th up into 17th, breaks out of the bottom three. But not only that, it brings us within a couple of points of Everton. That suckers them into this relegation battle. Even at the time, I didn't really think realistically that Everton would get relegated. I thought they'd be okay. Like, it was only Lampard's first game, I think, in the Premier League, wasn't it? He had a good cup game. Brentford, I think they beat like 4-0 or something the weekend before that. And yeah, yeah, looking back on it now, it's a bit mad to think where we are now. So tables have turned. They're now 17th on 22 points. Only, is it 1 point, or are they level on points now with the bottom three? They've got a couple of games in hand. They have got 2 games in hand, even on us. But we are 9 points ahead of them now. Mental. Sitting nicely in 14th. Nice little gap on the bottom three. But again, this is going to be a big game because it's even better than last time. This really does propel us. We're now looking to go kind of 11th. We're not far off the top 10 now, which comes like so quickly. And it pushes us up, pushes them down, which is great. I still think, looking back, like, we don't really want to look back. We want to look forward, but we still are in this relegation scrap as much as we almost went 10 games unbeaten. Obviously, only 9. The 10th game being Chelsea, where we got robbed at the weekend. It's just completely changed everything. And looking back at our record as well, decent record against Everton. We can really push on. We can go to Goodison, push us towards the top 10, get ourselves 11th, 12th, push them further into the relegation zone, keep a nice little cushion, nice little gap between us. And yeah, we haven't lost a game at Goodison Park in our last 3. Winning 1, drawing 2. One of them being that lovely Florian Lejeune 2-2 last-minute equaliser. Well, not even just an equaliser. Bringing one back. It looked like a consolation goal at the time with seconds left on the clock. And then went and got the equaliser. Brilliant game that was. One of the best away games I've been to. That in terms of that last 15-second atmosphere, or whatever it was. I think it took him like a minute and a half to score 2 goals. The game was dead. It was actually one of the worst games I've ever been to in terms of the full 90 minutes. But that atmosphere, pulling 2 goals back deep into stoppage time, was just absolutely tremendous. It was fantastic. Yeah, last lost at Goodison in 2018. We've actually not been beat by Everton in all competitions in our last 4. That's 2 games at home, 2 games away, winning 3 of those last 4. 2 of them at St James's, 1 of them away, and then there was that 2-2 draw at Goodison as well. Yeah, 3-1 it was earlier in February. That was the last time we played at St James's Park. 2-0 down there last season, which I believe was I think that was the first game that Graham Jones was a part of, where Callum Wilson scored 2 goals in a bit of a shock result as well, because they were having a pretty good year last year with Carlo Ancelotti, James Rodriguez, Dominic Calvert-Lewin was on fire, and we were really struggling with Steve Bruce. And yeah, I didn't really expect anything at Goodison that day, but went down there, Graham Jones effect, 2-0, brilliant performance. And we're coming into this where we're obviously high. 9 games unbeaten prior to the Chelsea game, which, like I say, we were absolutely robbed. Should have at least got a point out of that game, if not 3. And looking at Everton, lost each of their last 4, not even scoring a goal. 9 goals conceded in their last 4, none scored. That was 1-0 against Wolves in the last outing last weekend. 5-0 hammering against Spurs. Only 1-0 against City, which is relatively respectable. Beat Southampton. Got beat off Southampton, who haven't had the best of run-ins in the last couple of games. Again, us putting the L on them. And the last win was 5 games ago in a pretty good 3-0 win against Leeds. Another Premier League struggler now sitting behind us, which we wouldn't have thought we would have been saying this a month or two ago, ahead of Everton and Leeds. Mental. So that was a good result for them in hindsight, but hasn't really done much good for them. They got a win the other week, last weekend, sorry. So it's going to be interesting down the bottom, but as long as we keep beating teams like Everton, like Leeds, break ourselves away from that, give away a nice little comfortable cushion, get ourselves 10th, 11th, 12th, something like that, I'll be happy as Larry, considering we didn't have a win in each of our first 14 games. Like, we were way up against it, like when Eddie Howe came in. Had a mountain to climb, but that mountain is been climbing. And we have struggled a little bit with consistency of, well, I was going to say with injuries and such, but we've had a hectic schedule. I think that's been the problem. If we only just played 1 game a week, it wouldn't even be that bad. But I think illness is getting inside the camp, as it has around the Premier League as well, even in Everton. So we'll run through their team news to start with, and we will start with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who is to be assessed. He is looking unlikely. He joined in light training on Tuesday after missing out the Wolves game through an illness. So he could return, but is doubtful. So we'll have to wait and see about that one. John Joe Kenny got himself 2 bookings and sent off against Wolves. So he is suspended. Fabian Delph is out with a hamstring injury. And there's a couple of long-term absentees still unavailable in Yerry Mina with a quadriceps injury and Tom Davies with a hamstring injury. So a few missing there for Everton. But looking at Newcastle's team news there then, and we should be with Joe Willock, who was out of the Chelsea game with an illness. He returned to training yesterday, but should be okay. Eddie Howe doesn't really seem to have any issues with him. We're waiting to see about John Joe Shelvey. He was out with an illness as well. Both of them, Joe Willock and John Joe Shelvey, both just the night before the Chelsea game. I think they're prepared to play with them. Maybe he's even had to change the formation, but both got struck down with illnesses the night before the Chelsea game. So Willock should be back, but John Joe Shelvey hasn't trained, so is a bigger concern than what Joe Willock is. Like I say, Eddie Howe says Willock should be okay, but with John Joe Shelvey, we're waiting to see. It is looking unlikely. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with that one. Joe Linton, another one who missed out. He is touch and go. A decision will be made. I can't remember what the injury was with him. Was it hamstring, calf, something like that? But, yeah, Joe Linton will be touch and go. A decision will be made late on. Yeah, whether to push him back in the team or give him a little bit of a break. We do have a break coming up, 2.5 weeks before our next game after the Everton game. That will be on the 3rd of April, away to Spurs. So we've got a lovely 2.5-week break for people like Willock, like John Joe Shelvey, Joe Linton, to get their form back, shake off any illnesses, any sicknesses, any injuries. Hopefully we can have them all back ready for that game against Spurs. But yeah, whether he'll be pushed in or just going to just give him the break, time to recover, that will be a late decision on Joe Linton. Touch quickly on Ryan Fraser, who missed the Chelsea game as well with a slight hamstring injury. Just didn't want to risk him. So he's looking like he's going to be fine for this Everton game. It was just a slight injury, but yeah, just didn't want to be risked. So it should be A-okay. Let's get into the lineup there then. And we will start with the goalkeeper and back four. I'm just missing one, actually. So, where's that gone? That was there before. Never mind. We're going to start with the back four and midfield. Right, so it's going to look like this. Going to go back to the same formation. Obviously, as mentioned, we did have to change things up last minute for that Chelsea game. We weren't prepared to be without Joe Willock or John Joe Shelvey. Joe Linton missed out. Ryan Fraser missed out. So a lot of changes had to occur, which meant a change in formation as well, going to like a 5-2-3, bringing Captain Lascelles back into the frame. But for Everton, who are struggling, no goals in the last 4, please don't play 5 at the back. Go back to the way that it was. went 9 games unbeaten, playing in this same formation, like a 4-3-3. So please, Eddie Howe, please go back to that as long as the personnel's there, which it should be. Which would mean Lascelles dropping out again because Shah and Byrne have been in absolutely fantastic form, undroppable. And the same can be said with Matt Target. And Javi Manquillo, that will be a touch and go, really, whether that's going to be him or Emil Kraft. Obviously, Emil Kraft's been in pretty good form. Before this, I think he probably just put Manquillo in, playing that 5 at the back. I think Manquillo's a bit more of a solid wing back, is what Kraft is. Yeah, I think he's a better winger going forward, Manquillo, than what Kraft is. So that's maybe where the decision was there, but I have been tipping Manquillo to come back for a few weeks now. He was another one that picked up an injury, same game as Kieran Trippier did against Aston Villa. Hasn't really featured too much since, a couple of late sub-appearances. Did get the nod for Chelsea, though, so hopefully he's fit and in form, ready to go, slot into that back 4 at right back, and Emil Kraft will be on the bench awaiting his turn. And it's the midfield 3 that's going to be interesting there then. So obviously without Jonjo Shelvey, who Eddie Howe says we're waiting to see, and Joe Linton, who will be a late decision. Doubt either of them will play. So Joe Willock will go back into the starting lineup if he's 100% available, which we all hope that he is. Brilliant to see him come back. Bruno Guimaraes keeping into the starting lineup as he needs to be. Obviously, we're out without one midfielders, and he's in now. Brilliant goal on his first start against Southampton, and brilliant performance against Chelsea as well. Outstanding. So, yeah, he keeps his spot, which is good to see when you're £40 million man finally getting a run in the starting lineup. Has to play alongside Sean Longstaff, who had a brilliant game against Chelsea. Eddie Howe spoke about him in his press conference, saying, "After not playing for a period of time, I thought he was excellent. It's testament to how he's looked after himself physically, that he was able to play for the full 90 minutes. It's the same for a number of players coming in and taking their opportunity, which he has done well. He has been on the outside looking in. Did have a pretty good run in the team when Eddie Howe first came in, obviously before Bruno signed and before we realised that Joe Linton was world class. And obviously before Joe Willock's form as well, because that's only really been in the last recent 8-9 games. Before that, Joe Willock was having a pretty poor season and Sean Longstaff was ahead of him in the run-ins. So, yeah, credit to Sean Longstaff. He has been sitting there waiting his turn and did have a really, really good game. So really impressed with him. And it's good that Eddie Howe's keep mentioning it as well. He has mentioned him a couple of times in press conferences, saying how much he appreciates him, saying that he's a really good player, has got a future here. He is in his future plans. He's just down in the pecking order at the minute, obviously behind Joe Willock, Joe Linton, Jonjo Shelvey, and Bruno Guimaraes. He's 5th on the depth chart, as you could look at it, with a couple of loanees, Matty Longstaff and Jeff Hendrick out on loan as well. He's obviously going to be ahead of them if they ever come back to the club. So, yeah, good to see Sean Longstaff getting a good little run in the team. It's been very impressive. And so he'll keep his place with Shelvey and Joe Linton missing out. And changes to the front 3. I think this one will be interesting and will be a good question. And we will be bringing back Fraser and Saint-Maximin to the starting lineup. We have been missing Saint-Maximin. A couple of sub-appearances here and there. Illnesses, injuries has just been keeping Saint-Maximin out of the team a little bit, but did get a bit of a run-in against Chelsea. So hopefully he's shaken off anything that he's been carrying to come back to the starting lineup. And Ryan Fraser, as mentioned, did have a slight injury, hamstring injury against Chelsea, so shouldn't be a problem bringing him back, which would obviously drop Almiron out, who had a decent game, and would bring an end to the run-in of Jacob Murphy's run in the starting lineup in the absence of either Saint-Maximin or Fraser. One of them's been out for a good few weeks now, so that's why Jacob Murphy's had a run-in of the team. But as long as Fraser and Saint-Maximin are fit and available, they are by far our best 2 wingers. So, yeah, unfortunately, Jacob Murphy's going to have to sit out there. With big Chris Wood up front as well. Buzzing to see him get his first goal against Southampton. So hopefully he can keep up his form and keep banging the goals in and playing well as he always has been. So that's my starting 11. And we look to the bench and show Emil Kraft and Lascelles drop to the bench. We've got Dummett there, and Matt Ritchie was brought back to the bench for the Chelsea game. He's been a long-term absentee. We've got Murphy there, who, as mentioned, will drop to the bench, and Joe Linton. Could be a touch or go one. Like Eddie Howe did say that doesn't know whether to look after him or put him in. I'd say put him in for the bench. Like, it can't harm. If we don't need him, then don't play him. We've got other options. Almiron could play there. We could change up the formation a little bit, put in Lascelles and go back to a 5-2-3. So, yeah, we don't necessarily need to play Joe Linton on, but it will be good to have him there. Keep him on the bench. Just see how he does. Yeah, it's a nice option to have. Without him, you're going to be looking at the likes of Lucas De Ball. Maybe he's one of the defenders like Federico Fernandez, something like that. So, yeah, put Joe Linton on the bench, I'll say. Take him down. He has been with the team. He did go down to Southampton while he missed that game. Stayed with them in London for the Chelsea game. So we know he's with the squad. So hopefully he's shaken off whatever he's picked up just for a little place on the bench. Almiron and Gale will make up the rest. And that is about it. That's my team there then, guys. Let me know what you think. Give me a score prediction and your lineup prediction in the comments below. I'm going to go with a Newcastle win. I don't think it'll be an easy win, not as easy as the 3-1, but I do fancy it. I think we're the informed team. They're really, really struggling, which gives them more reason to fight, especially on home turf. So, yeah, I think it'll be a little bit more of a challenge, but I do think we will get a 2-1 win. Let me know what you think. Join us for the watch-along tomorrow. Big Renty will be here to go through that with you, as well as the post-match content as well. So make sure that you come back for that. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell for when they come through. Like this video. Appreciate all the support. Thanks very much, everyone. And make sure